Thank you for joining us today for Look Before You Speak. This is a program that invites people who are treasures in our community to come and share some images with us and educate us about what their passions are. And today, we're so thrilled and excited to have Kate Davis with us. And Kate is known as a raptor rehabilitator, and established Raptors of the Rockies in 1988.
88?
Yeah.
29th year right now, and counting.
Yeah. And she's worn a lot of hats, and I think some of the things that often get overlooked is the fact that Kate is a very gifted artist, as well as a caring and nurturing human being for all of these raptors. And so I thought today we could look at some of your sculpture and photography and talk a little bit about that. And but maybe you can tell us a little bit about Raptors of the Rockies before we jump into that.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's an education program, and right now I always say we, but it's just me. I don't have any volunteers or staff or docents or anything, but it's a facility at our house, my husband and I, and we have 16 Raptors that do education programs around the state. Plus, I'm lucky enough to be invited to do keynotes. I just got back from Utah. I'm headed to Philadelphia, and of course I don't take live birds with me, but I have a big PowerPoint program that I do. And I've done almost 1,600 programs, and I know that because I have to keep track of them all for the government, because they're the ones that let me do this. So there are 4 permits.
So you're a nonprofit?
Nonprofit,
okay.
Yeah, nonprofit, and almost all the money comes in are donations from, we call them our Raptor backers, like the Gluckerts, and people that have helped us out over the years, and we have a pretty good fan base, I would say, people that enjoy knowing that these birds are healthy and safe and well-fed, and they have big enclosures. They are in and out of the sun and wind and rain, but they're also in shelters and fed every day and water and everything. And they're comfortable doing education programs. And so I travel around with usually 4 birds at a time and do mostly K through 5 assemblies for kids. And then again, these keynotes and big events. I did one in the UC ballroom with 2 huge screens, and it's like, whoa, here I am.
I've attended quite a few of these programs, and these birds are just wonderful, and it's great educational outreach. But like I said, I think sometimes what gets overlooked is your passion as an artist, and your understanding of bird behavior and anatomy.
That's from being a taxidermist all my life. Believe it or not, really, it's knowing what goes where.
Yeah.
And I actually started this whole life with birds when I was 13 years old with the Cincinnati Zoo, Junior Zoologist Club. And one of the kids that was in there, these are all middle school, high school kids, 40 kind of hand-picked kids in Cincinnati. And one of my heroes in the club was a pen and ink artist, and he illustrated all their publications. And so I started kind of copying his work. He kind of took me under his wing, so to speak, and I started doing pen and ink drawings back in middle school and high school, and actually illustrating their publications as well. And then I kind of got into printmaking, and I'm trying my hand at painting. But you introduced me to Bill Orman back in 2000-something, early 2000s. Of course, the wonderful artist in Drummond that does the beautiful, well, what would you say, something to offend everyone, paintings, but also these giant metal sculptures. Yeah. And I went over there every Tuesday for about a month, and I'd get there at 10, and we'd start welding. And he didn't give me this safety first thing. He handed me a plasma cutter right away. He said, "You cut, girl." And I had my live peregrine Sibley. I had a little sculpture clay sculpture that I'd made of a peregrine, and we made that over the course of 3 days, 3 Tuesdays. Third Tuesday on the way home, I stopped at at a supply place and bought plasma cutter, wire feed welder, plasma. And so I've been I've done quite a few of these sculptures, and you've helped me quite a bit as well. And I think we have some.
Yeah, maybe we can just jump into the images. And the idea with this program is to, I think I was mentioning it to you earlier, is that commercial television, oftentimes the image stays up for 1 or 2 seconds at a time. And but this program is not like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through some images and have the image up for a while.
Yeah,
And,
this is the last sculpture that I made, and it's a 5-foot tall gyrfalcon. I wished it still looked like that. It's been in my yard, and it's kind of gotten rusted. But I cut these pieces out with plasma cutter and weld them all on the inside because my welds are so ugly. Bill's son John has offered to teach me how to weld now. After I don't know how many of these sculptures, he goes, Kate, I'll show you how to weld. So these things are
stainless steel? Or?
No, that's actually 16 gauge cold rolled.
Oh, okay.
And then I hit it with about 10 coats of acrylic so it'll stay shiny like that. But the rest of them that are and these are all in my yard and in my house and all over the place, and they're just for fun. They're not for sale.
And one of the things that stands out to me is just your understanding of anatomy and insight into bird anatomy. I mean, there's a real natural way and gesture of these birds.
Yeah, boy, every time I look at this, I go, I am never making 24 flight feathers again. You know what I actually did for one is I made 2 left wings, and I put them on and I went, oops, that's wrong. So live and learn, and then I would take these over to Bill for his approval, and we'd actually everyone always asks us, what are you going to make next? And it's like, come on, I'm not even done with this. What are you going to make next?
So do you have sculpture underway right now?
I have one in my head.
Okay.
It's going to be a big golden eagle.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, Bill asked, everyone asks us, what are you going to make next? And so as a joke, I brought a picture of a penguin. And Bill says, say, we could make a penguin together.
Yeah, he was fearless.
Fearless. And we did. We just kind of said, on your market, set, go. 5.5-foot tall penguins. And we had them both in the Missoula Art Museum together. That's the proudest exhibit I've ever been involved in. And anyway, it's funny, we made them exactly out of the same material. And mine is just standing up like this, but his is, he said, jumping into leopard shark infested waters. And that's Bill. The drama right there.
Let's look at another image.
Okay, well, also starting at a very young age, I got into photography. And my father was a photographer. We had a darkroom in our basement all growing up. And so I was handed a Nikon camera when I was a kid, of course, film. And every time you hit that trigger, 30 cents. Kids, think of this, 30 cents, 30 cents, So I kind of started dabbling in digital. And this photo here is a bald eagle nest that's outside of Missoula, and I'm standing on a railroad track. I got permission from Rail Link. Don't try this at home. Private ground, I got permission from the landowner. Right underneath the power line and right on the Clark Fork River and right on the highway. And this nest I'd photographed the year before. And rumor was there might have been more than the average 2 to 3 chicks. And so a woman that had kind of been spying on it said, I think I saw 4 little heads poking up. So this is the first day, the first minute, the first 5 minutes standing there. Here comes, so there's the adult female, there's the chick, there's the male flying in and with a fish. And I tell people it's a human foot, but it's really not. And that's the first picture I got. So it had just snowed. The snow is melting. You got little crystal circles and beautiful glinting on the foliage, the giant nest in the tree. And that is the first image I got, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna write a book about this. So there's 4 chicks in this nest.
Wow.
And that's unheard of. There are only 12 nests in the world that have ever done this. And this is right here, about 40 minutes drive and walk from my house. So, do you think I could ever get all 4 chicks to stand up at once?
Probably not.
No. It took forever.
Yeah. The composition in this photograph is fantastic. It feels like you're up.
You are. You're up on a railroad right away, looking into it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the advantage too.
Yeah.
And I got permission right away because everyone over there was familiar with Raptors of the Rockies, and I said, well, I'm going to document this nest because there's no one has ever done this for 4 chicks. I mean, now there's webcams and all this stuff, but not 4. And bald eagles are known as what's called fratricide, siblicide, Cain and Ableism. The ones that are 2 days older or 2 days older than that kill their younger siblings. Or they push them out of the nest, especially if there's a problem with the food, you know, in the spring with the run out and the high waters. They're not fishing, they're catching. So this nest, they were bringing in squirrels, ducks, Canada geese off the golf course, deer, bringing in deer, and of course fish later on. But I documented the whole thing and wrote a book about it, and it's called A Bald Eagle Nest. And this was my, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4th book, and it documents all the interactions with the chicks and the food and the parents and all 4 chicks fledged, and success story
Maybe
there.
you can hold that up.
Yeah.
And get a close-up.
So this book came out in 2012, I think, and it's about 100 and something pictures of these. Oh, there's everyone's favorite. I turned right to it, the deer on the power line. The male actually was bringing this deer back to the nest, dropped it on the power line in East Missoula. All the power went out in East Missoula. This lady walks out and sees it hanging on her fence and calls the Associated Press. Sold that photo for $50 and it went viral the next day. And that's the flying deer story.
Well, let's look at another photo.
Sure. And so what I started out with were some of the minor Nikon digital cameras. And I worked my way up. The bald eagle nest, I was shooting a D700 with a 300 millimeter with a 1.4, so that's a 420 for anybody that cares. But I started out shooting, film, actually, slides. And by the time I got this picture, I had fallen in love with an 80 to 400 millimeter lens. The whole body that I use now and camera setup weighs about 8 pounds. So it's not a point and shoot. And this is Sibley the peregrine. She's 13 now. This is her 13th year of flying. And she was stooping. She's my falconry bird and education bird. She's done over 500 programs over the years. She rides in my car looking out the window with bareheaded, which freaks people out. But anyway, so I was hunting in the Bitterroot, and she was stooping on ducks, which means she's flying straight down, and these ducks know better than to get out over open ground where she can catch them, and they go plop back in the water, plop back in the water. And she finally got mad.
When they swim,
she can't catch them. They're underwater, So she got really mad, and this kind of reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark when the guy comes out with the sword. The guy just shoots him, Well, that's what she did. Is she just got so mad that this one duck got up and she just chased it down in level flight, which people say they can't do. They need that height and this speed. And she's got that duck's entire tail in her right foot. She's pulled the tail feathers out. And she's still holding onto the duck with her left foot. And so that picture, the hen mallard screaming, she tugged it down. That was on the cover of American Falconry magazine. So now I know that this setup works, even though it weighs 8 pounds. It's hanging on my falconry vest.
So are you working just from handheld?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. This is just straight off the hip.
That's beautiful.
And real action there. And of course, I tell the vegans that the duck got away, which maybe it did. Maybe it did. But anyway, so what I started out by doing this book, which is Raptors of the West, and this is with Mountain Press. This came out in 2002. And these are all slides, and I decided to invest in some digital. I did this book, Falcons in North America. This came out in 2008. There's 200 photos, but now I'm working with Nick Dunlop and Rob Palmer, both are major award winners, and Nick is a great pal. Both of them are. Rob won everything one year. He won Audubon, National Wildlife, and the British awards, best in the world. And so this one is actually science, and took me 2 years to write, with Sibley the peregrine standing on a perch in the living room.
And you have a background in zoology.
Yep,
Yeah.
I have a zoology degree, and I've been studying it all my life.
Yeah.
So this combined photography and science, and the Amazon review for this, what one person wrote was, geez, even if you can't read, there are over 200 beautiful photographs in there. So now I realize people are attracted by the photographs.
Yeah. Do you think that moving from film to digital just frees you up a little bit as far as editorial selection?
That, to me, is one of the most important things about photography. Delete. Delete, don't save it, don't save it. Why?
So you're able to cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
wait until you get the good shot.
And you're able to quickly edit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I edit in the field a lot.
Oh, wow.
I do. And people say, don't do that. I just go, that wing's cut off. Or,
Yeah.
you know, that isn't. And then one of my favorite things to do is editing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe we can pop up the next image there while you're talking about
that. Yes, the editing itself. And so this is a different setup. Now
Wow.
I bought a D800. I've got a 500 millimeter lens. This thing, I don't know how much it weighs. It has a giant GoPro backpack that I haul down to the river every single evening. So this is a bald eagle nest that's across the road, or across the river, right out, 6-minute walk out my back door. And these birds are hanging out all year, the parent birds. And this will be their 5th year because they're nesting right now. They'll probably have eggs in about 2 weeks, and first part of March. But that's the male landing next to the female, and I get so many of these shots of these two birds together hamming it up. But I wanted the action to be his foot coming down and him talking to her, and her kind of looking like, uh-oh, you know, what does he have in mind, because it's mating season, if you know what I mean. So I am standing in one spot, and I didn't think, being as hyper as I am, I could do this, but I go down almost every night. I'd say 5 days a week, starting in March, and I stand there and I photograph this nest. And of course, incubation's pretty dull, but what we ended up finding, and this is just my favorite photograph of 2015, what I'm finding is August, the peregrines show up. The ospreys are there all year. There's a kestrel nest right underneath this nest. The kestrels are attacking the eagles. The ravens are attacking the eagles. The kestrels are attacking the ravens. The magpies attack everything. And so I'll stand there for literally 2 hours and not take a photograph.
That's great.
And then all of a sudden, you know, and I'm shooting a Nikon, which is relatively slow, the D800.
So this is later in the day.
Yes, this is later in the day, but this is still about March. You know, wow. They are and that's the nest tree. The nest is about 20 feet below where they're standing, and they're there they were there this morning when I drove out. Yeah. And these parent birds are they protect the nest and the young. They had 3 chicks last year, which was kind of fun because June 27th, I saw them all fledge at once. Okay. All 3 of them, got pictures of that, you know.
Let's take another image while you're talking.
Yeah, sure. And so that's been a fun one. And then this is right below the nest. Oh. And this is one of the last osprey pictures I got. These ospreys hate the bald eagles because the bald eagles are stealing fish from them, and it's tough because that's all ospreys eat.
Once they finish hunting the fish, the eagles will steal them.
Eagles will steal them, and they'll bully them, and they'll get them to drop the fish. I've seen them drop it in the water, and I've seen the fish swim away. And I'm trying to watch all this. I had a moose just about run me over on the beach right here. But this is my favorite osprey. Now, if you see the white edges on all the feathers, that's a young bird. And that bird's parents have left about 2 weeks before. And everyone says, oh, the parents teach the birds how to fish. No, they know how to fish. They're just perfecting it. And this one, this young bird finally left God, when was it? August, September. I mean, they're there till almost November this year. I don't know why. And late September, and this bird could catch whitefish, mountain whitefish, all the time, all the time. So this is another experiment in patience, standing and waiting. But again, some days I would take 300 photographs, and that's where that delete button comes in handy.
What I really like about that photograph is how crisp the bird is, and how the field of the background.
It's a short depth of field there, yeah.
Yeah,
And I just
really
got
great.
the bird.
And just the anatomy of that bird is remarkable.
That's how
like it's ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd like to say he caught a fish right then, but he didn't. And that's a male, I know, because he doesn't have the necklace. But anyway, he was one of my pals down at the river.
Oh, cool.
And he would attack those eagles. Mostly the adult ospreys would attack the eagles, and the eagles would just hide in the foliage like that. But this is when I really did decide to sink all the money that I have into photography gear. This book came out, and again with Rob and Nick, we did. Mountain Press said, Kate, people are looking at your photographs, so let's do a coffee table book.
Yeah.
So there's 430 photos. I put it together. I divided it into habitats because if I pick up a book, I look at the falcons.
Yeah.
And it won the National Outdoor Book Award.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it won the Montana Book Award Grand Prize. So this, they're on their third printing of this. And I took the money from this and bought the camera gear to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is the latest book I have, Pint-Sized Predator, American Kestrel with Mountain Press.
And you have another book coming out.
And I have another book coming out this year. So the new book is this total slant on, it's not what you think. It's not science at all. It's my photos, my favorite photos of birds doing things, and then captions underneath explaining what they're thinking or a ridiculous explanation. For example, the osprey the caption for that one is, the learning curve for a young osprey is more like a straight vertical line, which is true, you know.
Yeah.
So there's, I think it'll go over well. So there's 115 photographs in that. So basically, I went from pretty much doing education programs for kids to getting involved in the Raptor Research Foundation. I was their education chair, their conference chair, international group there, to doing these keynotes around the country, to doing books, to being a photographer. And
do we have one more photo?
Oh, I think we have one more that's just... there's two more actually. This
Okay,
one, this
great.
is my artsy one. That's Sonora, or Aplomado falcon.
And this bird is...
out flying around.
But is it from North America?
Barely. It's from the Peregrine Fund. I got this bird. She's 3 years old right now in 2016. I got her from the Peregrine Fund, and she's out flying around, and she's landing in a tree. And so this is some of that Photoshop magic that you can do, and it's called posterize. And all I did was make fewer options for the colors. And I have this blown up really big in my house. I love that. And that's Sonora, and she's done, I think she did 60 education programs last year.
That's great.
So she's well known, little tiny falcon, flies around my house, hangs out on my bookshelf, comes over and lands on my shoulder. So she's like a parrot.
And that's great color, great composition, great contrast. You have a lot going on right there.
Yeah, and then there's one more photo.
Okay.
I hope, and there we go.
Oh,
and this is a luck out shot. Now the other ones, I'm standing there waiting, and I know exactly. I'm shooting 25/100th of a second. I'm shooting 400 ISO if it's sunny out. I'm shooting, all manual. But this one, I just lucked out with that, and that is there's a nest of screech owls west of town, western screech owls. And it was so sunny that I just shot up into the tree, hoping they were up there. I wonder if we could show that again. And there's all three faces looking down. And so it just shows that you can, plan and plot and set up and just go berserk with your expensive giant cameras and your great big lenses, or you can point and shoot. And that's what that is. That's a point and shoot. That's a off the cuff, lucked out. And that seems to be everybody's favorite because it's not looking right at me. It's looking over at my dog. So I think one of my lessons over the years for photography has been I can use these. I can use them in books. I can use them in PowerPoints. My PowerPoint's 100 slides, and it's just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that's always my last one. The
Well, not only
screech owls.
that, you have birds that are being rehabilitated.
I don't do any rehabilitation.
But-
These are all permanent birds. That
Yeah, but at the same time, your appreciation of birds in their natural environment and hunting naturally.
Yes, and having seen it
Yeah,
to describe it.
is really important part of the educational outreach that you do.
Thank you. And I think, we'd love it if everyone became a naturalist or voted for conservation issues and protected their environment. That'd be great. That's why we start with the little kids K through 5. But basically, even with the grown-up programs, basically we just want people to go outside. And we just want them to go enjoy what we have here in Western Montana.
Well, that's great. And I think, thanks for being on the program today. I think it's really so important to celebrate all the hats you wear. Not just that of being a caretaker, but and an educator, but your skills as a sculptor and photographer and as an artist really makes this community a really special place to have people like you living here. And do you want to talk about people can access these books through your website?
Sure. If you see a green Subaru downtown, they're all in the back of my car. Well, how many green Subarus are there downtown?
But they can visit your website.
So these are on our website. It's raptorsoftherockies.org is the education, and the photography is .com. So it's raptorsoftherockies.com, and I do a blog every day too, which I love doing. And if you join our family of raptor backers, hundreds of them around the world, actually around the U.S. mostly, I do a newsletter 3 times a year, and you will be thanked with a little gift of a little photo of your choice.
Well, thank you so much for being
Thanks.
on today, and that's our program for today.
Thank you.